Okay, so this, right off the bat, I should clarify this is just going to be no background audio, just me talking about games. I have a list here of more or less every single game I've played, at least that I can remember playing. And just the, this is not in any sort of order, just ones that I remember. I am going to blatantly rip off Grapefruit and just go through a full Google sheet of every game I can remember playing and giving it a quick review, rating out of 10, and a recommendation, whether it's yes or no, just generally like, do I think the average person should play this in their journey to experience gaming, or do I think it's not that required of stepping stone in that journey? Um, there's not much to say. This is going to be kind of boring if you're not interested in this sort of thing. I wholeheartedly encourage you to add some background noise of your own or listen to this while you do something else, like I know so many of us do nowadays. So, while my cat scowls at me, I'm going to start. So, the first game I have on this list is The Munchables, which is, for those that don't know, a very obscure Bandai Namco game. It's like sort of an alternative to Katamari Damacy. You play as one of these like characters that can eat just anything, basically anything below your size, and your whole goal every level is to eat like everything or like eat like a required couple like quest items, and it's just if you took Katamari and made it more of a strict platformer because you're not like rolling a ball around. It's got a much more traditional control scheme outside of the fact that it's on the fucking Wii. So the default controls are having you use the nunchuck and shake the nunchuck to jump. Uh, very very weird, but it feels perfectly fine when you play it, and it is a very interesting time. It's a game that I have a lot of experience with, and I'm objectively pretty biased with this game because I got it as a kid. I saw it at like a GameStop, I think, and I asked my grandma to get it for me, and she did. And then I played it, and I fucking loved it. I love the visuals, the music, especially the music. This game has a godlike soundtrack, and it just everything about this game is extremely charming to me. It feels kind of sluggish when you play it nowadays. It's just kind of it hasn't aged very well in terms of just control snappiness. Like I would expect better from a licensed Nintendo game. Like it's not Nintendo themselves, but I mean it's on their fucking console. Um, it's just not that amazing, but I love it. Um, if I were to like give it a solid rating, I would probably give it an 8. But that's really, really you got to take that with a grain of salt because I am so biased, and I'd call like an 8 a decently above average score. Like an 8 is something that you would go out of your way to play an 8 every now and then. But you're also not going to see it lining charts or anything. An 8.5 is like really good. 9 is fantastic. 9.5 is nearly perfect, and then 10 is actually like has no major flaws. Um, so I'd say 8 is a really good solid score. It's just the soundtrack and the visuals, just the aesthetic of this game in general fucking carries it hard because it's what if I mean it's got the same sort of vibe as Katamari, well not quite the same vibe, but it's got kind of the same quirk of it just being really like aggressively like Japanese in the way that it's got the absurdist everything. Like everything is very silly. It operates under its own sort of inconsistent logic in terms of how things interact and just the general vibe of the game. The story is a lot more um, grounded and cut and dry than something like Katamari, but I don't know, it's good. I love this game. Very, very distinct and unique, and it's kind of sad that it didn't really pop off. The only like big Let's Plays or videos on the game that you'll ever find are from Game Grumps, like a decade ago. So, believe it or not, it's not exactly a very well-loved game, but I do think it's worth a shot. For recommendation for most people, I hate to say it, but I would probably say no. Just, the game is all, as I said, it aged kind of poorly. It's on an old console. You'd have to fucking, um, you have to get a fucking ROM for it, or buy an old console and an old video game that are, let's face it, going to wear out pretty soon. Like, Wii's are not going to last too much longer, considering their disk systems. I just feel like they're a lot more prone to scratching shit. I don't think Munchable is going to be very easily accessible for very long, and it's not groundbreaking. It's pretty good. It's not groundbreaking. Super Mario Brothers, the very, very first one, the one on the NES. So not actually the first one, but whatever. The first like traditional 2D platformer in the Mario series. It's the video game. This is the video game. However, I do not think it's that great. I I've played it, as has everyone else. All these are fucking games that I've played to some extent. Most of them I haven't beaten, but all of them I've played for some period of time, enough to have an opinion on it. And Mario Brothers is kind of bland. It's got exactly like 3 level styles, I think. Um, Surface, cave, and water, and I think that's it. There are 3 power-ups in total, including the mushroom. There's almost no enemy. Well, actually, there's a pretty decent enemy variety, but it's like there's still a small enough enemy variety that it's just like it gets really samey by World 3. So it's just, I mean, the controls in this game feel buttery smooth. Like, it's shocking how well some NES games hold up nowadays, considering most of them suck. Um, but this game, it feels great to play. But the game itself, like the world you're controlling Mario in and the things that happen in it, it's kind of janky. They are very bland, very repetitive. Like, unless you know the levels like the back of your hand, no person who's played this game could like tell the difference between World 5 and World 2. They look identical. They are so close to just being the same fucking thing. The only difference is it just gets a little harder as time goes on. If you enjoy watching different arrangements of the same like 7 level assets over and over and over again, you'll have a blast. But for most people, I don't think this is actually that worth your time. Aside the fact that it's a big piece of gaming history. So I will say yes with the recommendation, despite every bad thing I've said, because it's gaming history. Like, everyone's got to play it at some point. But actually, like, going out of your way to have a fun time, you're not going to play Mario 1. It's obviously huge for gaming history. And, I mean, it gets a couple points in that aspect, but it's not a game that you're going to go, yeah, I feel like playing Super Mario Brothers on the NES today. You're never going to say that. And if you do, it's from nostalgia. You don't enjoy this game. And if you do, more power to you. But the layperson is not going to enjoy Super Mario Brothers beyond playing it for like half an hour and going, yep, that was a game. I am going to give it a 4.5, which is blasphemous, but it's fucking NES Mario Brothers. Now, Mario 2, on the other hand, is better. It's better. It's got a lot more variety to the levels and the visuals. Um, the combat is actually interesting because you throw shit. You don't just jump on everything. Your interactions with enemies are a lot more dynamic because of that. You don't just either jump on them or not jump on them, being the entire fucking dichotomy, or the entire fucking flowchart in NES Mario Brothers. Mario 2, a lot more interesting in that aspect. Not necessarily blowing anyone's socks off, but I would say it's definitely better. It's a lot more forgiving in general, because you don't die in one shot to literally everything, which is pretty nice, and just generally makes it a little more friendly. It's not an easy game. None of these games are easy, despite the reputation of, oh, Mario, it's the video game, it's normie, it's user-friendly. It's not actually all that easy. It's definitely easier the first one, though. With it being more user-friendly and more visually interesting and varied, I would say it's a better game. I might give it a 6. These are really... Don't take the ratings very seriously. They're fucking stupid. I'm stupid. And I give it a yes, too. There's not actually that much that I have to say about a lot of these Mario games. I grew up with some of the later ones. I was born in 2003. Got a little bit of a... I grew up on the Wii, so I got a little bit of a later start on this series here, but these early ones that I didn't grow up with, and that I really only know from reputation, and I've only played a handful of times because they're not actually that great, I'm not going to have all that much to say, shockingly. For instance, Mario 3. I've played it even less than I've played Mario 1 and 2, I think. I definitely enjoy it. It's, once again, completely nixes that issue of Mario 1 having no variety. Mario 3 has a lot of variety. Every world is very distinct, which is cool, because it's on the same fucking console. I mean, just to do so much more, because it's not one of the first games made for that console. Game's just good. The movement is really slick. The P-meter adds a lot to it. There's so many more power-ups, so many more visual assets, enemy variety, bosses. You don't just fight Bowser 8 times. It's a lot more interesting of a game, and I think it's just, in general, a lot more solid than either of the other two before it. I think it's a good-ass game. I would call it like a 7. It's like the only one of these games so far that I have gone out of my way to play. Of these Mario games, like, every now and then I will check it out. I still have played it less overall, but every now and then I will actually think I'm in the mood for Mario 3, and I will go play Mario 3. That is how good it is. It's not fantastic. It's not best game ever made, but it's good. Mario World. Another step up, I would say. One of the most beloved games ever. I've heard it be called the best game ever made. It's like that and Ocarina of Time, or people will fucking slit your throat if you give it anything less than a 10, but I guess I need to hire a bodyguard because it is getting a 7.5 from me. I just don't vibe with it. This is literally, like, the ratings are very subjective. I just do not vibe with Mario World that much. Just, I wish I knew why, but something about the game just doesn't feel that solid. I love the visuals. The music is fucking superb. Mario generally has fantastic soundtracks in general, but Mario World is, like, one of the best. But the gameplay itself, just doesn't click as well with me. Something about it just feels kind of off. And I've just never been able to, like, get into it. I've given it a few shots. I've never been able to get very far without just kind of feeling meh. But I will concede this is entirely a me issue. It's getting a 7.5 mostly because I know it is objectively a fantastic game, but I just don't vibe with it, and I literally cannot place why. I know that makes me kind of a shit reviewer, but it's my video. So, Mario World, I'm gonna give it a yes, because if so many people think it's the best game ever made, it must have something to it. It's just not really for me. Mario 64, though. See, this The previous rating was bumped up because I know the game's objectively good. Mario 64 is going to get knocked down from where I would put it because I know it is objectively not as good as I think it is. Mario 64 is one of my favorite games ever. It's got the nostalgia factor, even though I didn't even play this version of the game. I played the DS game. It still has the nostalgia factor. The music is hit or miss, but it's got more hits than misses, in my opinion. Um, the level design is really, really charming. It's very blocky. It's very silly, sort of. It's like so obviously the first of its kind. There was no form of like refinement to it. It is one of the buggiest games I have ever seen. There are, I mean, it's a big thing now from the new Pan and Codec video. There are invisible walls everywhere. You can crash the game by fucking crouching and moving next to a pendulum in the right way for 24 hours. it's it's a broken game, and a lot of the time, those bugs end up hindering the game. But the movement is as close to top notch as you can get without being literally perfect. It's got some jank to it. It could use like one or two more like little bits of movement like options. And we've got mods for or ROM hacks for the game later on that fix that. But I think it's a fucking fantastic game. I love almost everything about it. It's just objectively there's some jank to it. You will die to invisible walls and camera shenanigans. It's just going to happen. That's how it is. But it is one of the most fun games I've ever played. Wow, that is hard to read. Um, yeah, I'm going to manually fix that. Um, it's just a blast in my opinion. It's very fun to long jump around and do little like bugs that will help progress further in the game, like the fucking bomb clip and cannonless and owlless and the BLJs in the castle. There's so much fun shit you can do in this game if you know what you're doing. That the bugs can fucking add to your experience, and that is one of my favorite things ever. When a game has glitches that you can manipulate to make it more fun, that's just unparalleled. And 64 does that in spades. It's so first draft. it's such a first try at a 3D platformer, and I love everything about that. It's so good. I would absolutely recommend it. I just can't give it anything above a 9, even though it's a 9.5 in my heart, because it is frustrating and some of the stars are actually fucking hard, unless you are really good at the game. So it can be a frustrating experience. Absolutely. But I love it. And Last Impact. It is a hack made by Kaze Emanuar, the fucking goat himself. It's a pretty old hack. I think it was 2016, I want to say. It is an entire overhaul for the game. It's an entire second campaign of Super Mario 64 with tons and tons and tons of new enemy variety, power-ups. Every area you go to is unique from Mario 64, like baseline. Um, there are mini games. There are new bosses. I think it's got 150 stars instead of 120, so there's more game, which isn't always a good thing, but I think it is in this case. Every level has really unique mechanics to it. Like, I mean, the first level in the game has the fuzzies from Yoshi's Island, which I've never played myself, but I know what they do. And it makes all the textures in the screen turn this weird rainbow color, and every vertex just starts warping around, so the entire like level seems to fall apart, all while your controls get fucked. And they only show up in the game like twice, I think. There's so much work and effort and creativity put into every little aspect of this hack, and it is so special to me. Not only from that, I have a lot of nostalgia for it. I played it a lot when I was younger. I even had an N64 emulator on my phone that I played Last Impact on, and it was completely broken. The textures were fucked, but I loved it. It was so. This hack is just. It's so charming. It has so much work put into it, so much love put into it, and the creator himself, I think he called it like a C tier or a B tier or something like that. He doesn't think super highly of it, but I think it's objectively not nearly his best work, but subjectively it is fucking fantastic to me. I'm gonna call it a 9 as well. I think it's basically on par with 64, just because it does everything 64 does, but with more, not thought, but it's more creativity thrown in. It's a lot more unique. There's no repeating stage styles like in Mario 64, so you're not going to see. I mean, Mario 64 has 2 lava stages, it's got 2 water stages, um, 2 snow stages, 2 cloud stages. Like, it's got some repeats in there. Not too many, but they are there. Last Impact just doesn't have that very often. It's just a lot more varietous, and that's something I clearly, as you've probably figured out, I value that a lot. And I've actually never 100% of this game. I don't even think I've done the final boss before, but I've beaten almost the entirety of this game twice over. I plan on doing it again. I've actually got a file going on right now that I would like to get back to pretty soon. And this game's just a fucking blast. It's got a lot of jank to it because it is an early ROM hack of SM64. Not like early, but pretty early. It's got a lot of jank to it. A lot of the things don't function very well. I'll just come out and say it. The fucking Fire Flower is really weird to use with how much it bounces. The bee suit feels really weird with the fact that you just like don't always go as high as you think you're gonna go. There's jank to it. Full stop. But it's so charming. And I don't think there's anything in this game that frustrated me to nearly the degree of something like what's even a fucking example? I guess the first Super Mario Brothers. It's not that frustrating, in my opinion. Um, and honestly, once again, the jank adds to the charm for me. I'm a lover of jank and glitches and silliness, and this game has it in spades. I would call it a recommend, just at least to see it out, see what it's got going on. But I don't think everyone's gonna love it, but I think it earned its popularity. I'll say that. Star Road is Last Impact, but it was made even earlier by Skellex, who's just generally a pretty prolific Mario hacker. I think he does much more than just Mario, but uh, that's another thing entirely. Star Road is just like Last Impact in the way that it's a full conversion. It's just an entire additional campaign. I think it's got 120 or 130 stars, and it's honestly, I think it's more coherent than Last Impact is. I think it's got more thought put into it. Well, not thought, but I just feel like in the end, it is a cleaner experience with less jank to it, less that gets in your way as a player. Um, I don't like it as much, but I do think it's fucking fantastic. It's a lot of people have gone on to say that Mario 64 Star Road is basically Mario 64 2, and that is just true. It's once again, it's not incredibly polished, but it's pretty polished, and you could definitely trick someone into thinking it was an official Mario 64 2 if they didn't know that doesn't exist. It is mind blowing, in my opinion. I haven't once again I haven't beaten this one either. I have trouble sometimes sitting down and just going all the way through a fucking game, but I fully intend to. And this is another game that I'm just going to I'm gonna give it a recommend. I'm giving out a lot of recommendations here, but it's got a lot of historical value for Mario 64 hacks, and it's just good. It's just good, simple fun. 64 Land is if you took 64 and combined it with 3D Land. So it's got like the linear style levels that 3D Land has, and it's also got like separate stars and missions you can get in the level. You get 1 star for getting to the end of the level, and then other stars for doing little missions inside each stage. Either it's getting 100 coins or getting 8 red coins. There are missions, as I said. Plus, you get score, so you can get a score ranking at the end of a level, and if you get an A or even an S rank, you can get extra stars for that. And the A and S ranks are pretty difficult to go for, in my opinion, but they're a fun fucking challenge. The game adds in more movement tech, so you've got the spin jump, you've got the ground pound jump, you've got easier wall kicks than Mario 64. You can slide on the wall like in the modern games. And overall, I just think it's a very, very fun experience. It's also a case hack, and it's way, way, way more polished than Last Impact is. It's still got jank to it, because even if you're working with fucking decomp, you're going to have jank in your Mario 64 hacks. But yeah, I think it's fucking incredibly solid. It is just, I would say it's better than 64, just the base game. I think it's just better. So once again, a lot more varietous. Even though it's got the linear stages, it does a lot with those stages, because there are still secrets, there are still reasons to explore and look around. And the stages are just fun. They're very creative. Most of them have a unique gimmick of some kind, or at least some unique identity. It's just a really, really, really fun game that I've gone back to multiple times. Ooh. Ha. Ooh, sorry. Acid reflux. Wow. That kind of interrupted me, but I was going to give it a 9. And despite how much I love it, I don't think I'm going to give it a recommendation, simply because I don't think it's as required reading, or it's as close to being required reading as the other 64 hacks are. It's not as pivotal to like the history of ROM hacking. It's not very pivotal to the history of gaming in general. It just didn't make as much of a splash as Last Impact or Star Road did. However, it is better than those two. I don't like it as much as Star Road, or I don't like it as much as Last Impact. I like it more than Star Road, but not as much as Last Impact. But it is objectively better. It is just so much more tightly designed. And I think it's fantastic. But once again, the fact that it's not as like important, or I don't know, I just don't think the layperson, because once again the recommendation is just for the gamer, I don't think it's going to be as important. But it's still really good. A no recommendation does not mean it's bad, or that I wouldn't recommend you play it if you like this kind of thing. It just means I don't think the average person is going to need to play that. Green Demon. Okay, Green Demon, another no, right off the bat. It's Super Mario 64, basically unchanged, except every time you start any stage or go through any screen transition, a 1-up spawns that chases you through the air and kills you instantaneously on contact. And that's the entire hack. That's all it does. It also, it does give you infinite lives and keeps track of your deaths on a death counter. It's a very, very, very difficult hack. Even beating the game just baseline is nigh on impossible for the average person. It adds no new content. It adds no reward for beating the game. It's just the same thing, but way harder, with a very, very silly, goofy little gimmick. And I love it, but it is objectively just a downgrade. I'm giving it like a 6. It's not good. It's well made. It works. It's very simple, and it just makes the game worse. And speaking of being well made and making the game worse, I'm going to give it a yes because it is fucking iconic. Super Mario 64 Chaos Edition. If you've seen other games have Chaos Editions, it started with this. It's another case hack, just like Land and Last Impact. And I don't even know where to begin with it. The game, when you play it, will have... It'll activate random cheat codes and other hacks to just, without warning, fuck with your game. So sometimes your controls will invert, or you'll turn into a sign, or you'll grow to 10,000 times your regular size, or you'll die instantaneously, or the game will make you play a game of Pong or die, or it'll make you do a QuickTime event to either die or not die, depending on what the prompt says, but you have an extremely limited time to react, so it can make stars spawn out of nowhere, it can make every object in the stage fly at you, it can change the color palette of the game, it can make you have infinite coins upon killing a single enemy, it can make enemies spew out of you every time you do anything, it can spawn these unique enemies that kill you in one shot. It does everything under the sun and then some. It's completely unpredictable. It is a nightmare to play. It is one of the most frustrating experiences I've ever had with a game, and I would not trade that for the world. It is hilarious how awful this is to play. It is so good at being horrible, and I adore it. It is so funny. The amount of shit that will happen that you swear is fucking scripted is insane. I beat this game. I did. I beat Chaos Edition, and the way I did was by just getting a random warp to the final Bowser fight and killing him and doing the fucking ending cutscene with like 20 stars, I think, after like 4 hours of playing. So it was a pretty long time to beat the game, but I still only had like 20 stars. Chaos can be a nightmare, and there are many different versions of it. I think we're up to 4.0 now. There's like 7 or so different versions, I think. Maybe just the 4, I don't know. And they're all slightly different. They just have different codes in them. The more recent ones are generally better built. They don't crash as often. Because the old ones crash all the fucking time. But some of the new codes are really fucked. So it depends on your preferences which version you play. I would suggest the newer ones, but it's entirely up to you. But Chaos Edition, if you ever decide to play it, don't expect to have a fun time. I only recommend this because I think it's really funny, and I think everyone should at least see what it's like. Because it is indescribable. I tried, but it is truly indescribable. It gets a 5 out of 10. Because it's actually a miserable fucking experience. Yo, why is that, black, please? Why is it allergic to being black? Come on. I want you to be readable. Can you be purple? No. What is happening? What if I do a comma and then make it purple? There we go. Oh, that fucked it up. Alright. Underscore 5. Yeah, I know this is fucked. I know this is not how this is supposed to work, but I don't know why it was... Oh, wait. I know how to fix this. I'm just fixing my formatting. Oh, wait, no, conditional formatting. Exactly 5. Text color black. There we go. We can make this more readable. And then dark blue. Make the text white. And you make the text white. There we go. And you can also make the text white. So there's my conditional formatting. The higher you go, the weirder it gets and looks less like a gradient, but at least these look normal. But yeah, there's... Oh yeah, these are... I had, like, an additional column that was what, like, degree I've played the game, but it was really arbitrary, and I just decided to stop doing that. Anyway, Mario 64 DS. It's just Mario 64, but much more polished and with a lot more content. The movement feels less good, and that's pretty much the only downside. It's a lot better optimized. It doesn't lag at all. Like, the models are a lot simpler, but still look a lot better. The texture work is a lot better, a lot more interesting and varied. The music is just a little higher quality. The audio is a little higher quality. It's just better. It's got a lot more variety to it. It's got 30 more stars. And some stars were reworked to be less awful. A couple stars were even removed and replaced with other stars. It's a great time. It is a great time, in my opinion. It's just Mario 64 if it was better. It gets a fucking 9.5, and I'm gonna give it a recommend. It's just the same thing, but better. I don't like it as much. I have more nostalgia for it, but I don't like it as much just because the movement is nicer in 64. But 64DS is fucking... It's legendary. It is a legendary game. It's just better than 64. I don't like it as much, but it's better. There's nothing more to say about that. Okay, Galaxy. I played Galaxy 2 and then Galaxy as a kid. And these games, I mean, they run together a lot in my mind. Because, as the story goes, Galaxy 2 was originally meant to be an expansion. Like, it was supposed to be DLC for Galaxy 1 that had added on more levels. But then they realized the game was literally larger than the first game, so they just made it a second thing. But I'm going to rate them pretty much as one, because I feel identically about both of them. They are solid 9.5s. The only issue that I have with either of these games is that their movement is not that fun. But the visuals are really creative. The entire idea is really creative. They're pretty polished. There are some minor flaws that you see every now and then, but they are very polished. They are so solid. They've got some minor bugs that are usually in your favor that you just kind of have to know how to do, which is like, if the bugs aren't obtrusive and essentially just add to your enjoyment, then yahoo, cool. The games they're just so good. The music is off the charts fantastic. Literally, like, maybe top 10 soundtracks in gaming, just period. It's transcendently good, this fucking OST. Everything about these games is fucking amazing. Even the green stars, in my opinion, are just really fun. I just like getting to look at a stage in a different light. And the green stars do that for me with Galaxy 2. And Galaxy 1, despite not having those, and the post-game just doing the game a second time with a different character who functions almost identically, it's not as good. The second game, I think, is just better. And the second game has better stages overall, but it's not enough to fucking put it up to a 10, and it's not enough to knock the first one down to a 9. They are incredible games. I am a little nostalgia blind, but I think they're fucking perfect. I mean, they're not perfect, but I wouldn't change much about them outside of just making the fucking movement feel a little slicker, because there's basically no movement tech in terms of, like, silly or fast things you can do. The fastest way to move in this game is just a repeatedly long jump, which compared to doing fucking dive jumps in 64 and whatever the fuck it is that you do in Odyssey, it's pretty boring. But mildly boring movement with unbelievably creative level design, you don't really notice the like mildly boring movement. It's just fucking fantastic. Odyssey. I I like Galaxy more. I like Galaxy 2 more. I like 64 more. But Galaxy is the best Mario game. Just outright. It is a 10. There is not one thing about Odyssey that I would change. The game has an unbelievably good soundtrack. The controls are the best in any fucking Mario game. Even the motion controls are fun. Every moon is accessible. None of them are absurdly difficult or janky. Some of them are tough, but they're all doable for the average person. You can 100% this game. Everyone can 100% this game. The true 100%, getting literally everything in the game, does require grinding, but I enjoyed the grinding. The bugs in this game are really, 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 really fun to mess around with, very entertaining. You can turn the walls into liquid. You can make black holes that fucking lag the shit out of your game intentionally. You can, you can clip through every wall in the game. You can fucking fly, essentially, with some captures. You can teleport. This game is unbelievable with how fun every single aspect of it is. The movement is perfect. There's so much tech you can do with Cappy, and the rolling, the diving, and the spin jumps, and the backflips. This game does fucking everything right, and I cannot knock almost any aspect of it. I love everything about this game. I don't love it as much as 64, because I'm so nostalgic for 64. But Odyssey is fucking perfect. I don't expect Nintendo to be able to outdo themselves after this. It's all downhill from here. But it doesn't seem like they're trying to, because we haven't had a new 3D Mario game since Bowser's Fury. And Bowser's Fury was just an add-on for another game. We haven't seen a wholly original, unique 3D Mario since 2017 with Odyssey. So, I think they know they peaked. 3D World. It's a linear 3D platformer. So it's, if you took, it's like 64 Land, except it's an official game, and it's very stylized, very polished. It's also got fun jank to it. It's just really solid. It's not like peak Mario or anything. It does reuse quite a bit of content, and 100%ing this game is a nightmare. But it's very fun. It's very solid. It gets like an 8.5. I'm not going to call that required rating. It's just really fun. The soundtrack is legendary, as is usual. Fucking Koji Kondo, right? Basically unmatched composer. It's fucking Bowser's theme is unbelievably iconic, and if you're talking about the remake of this game with Bowser's Fury, if you're including Bowser's Fury, the music in that is iconic too. Just 3D World it's great. It is fucking fantastic. It's not up to snuff with the like greats, but it's really, 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 really good. I'm actually going to bump it up to a 9. I don't think an 8.5 is that fair for fucking 3D World. Wii. NSMB Wii. The second New Super Mario Bros. Game. New Super Mario Bros. 2 is not, in fact, the second. It is the third. I think the general consensus is that this is the best New Super game, and I am inclined to agree. It was one of my first video games ever, so I'm very nostalgic for it. I love the visual style, which I know is weird to say about an NSMB game, because that's kind of the joke with them. These 2D platformers just don't have fucking any uniqueness to them, but that's not true. They do have a style, and they do differentiate between each other to an extent. But they do have a design philosophy. They aren't just nothing games. They are very fun. They're just too similar. NSMB Wii is just, it's got the best power-ups, in my opinion. It's got the best level design. It's got the best music, but the music is fucking shared between most of the games. The boss fights are as creative as you can get by using the same 8 bosses for 3 of the games. I think it's fantastic. I think it's just a great game that does almost everything right. I'd give it a 9. It does not blow you out of the water, and it never will. Especially considering it's the second game in a series it's basically all like this, but if you're going to play any of the new Super games, I'm going to say you should play Wii. It's just really good. U is basically Wii, but with it's a little like glossier in the visual department in terms of like just the visual design. It's less flat, more glossy, just like how the Wii to the Wii U UI looked. It's the same thing with these games. It's got different power-ups, different enemies. It's got more enemy variety. It's got more challenges. It's good. It's just a good game. I don't think there's much to say about it. It's just kind of it's a good game. But that's all there is to it. It's not mind-blowing. It's the 4th game in the series, and it's the only one to not have a unique gimmick. I guess it has the... Actually, no, Wii doesn't have Wii's the only one without a unique gimmick, but... its only gimmick is the Yoshis, and they show up very sparingly, and are not that great. They're cool, but they're not that great. Luigi U is Mario Bros. U, but it's significantly harder. And that's the entire gimmick to it. You have slightly different controls. The levels have a much shorter time limit, and they are just harder outright. And it's basically the same. I think it's more fun just because it's more challenging, but it's not like absurdly challenging. But it is basically the same game. I don't think there's actually all that much to say about it. Paper Mario 64. Another game that I have a lot of nostalgia for. I have cried from nostalgia listening to the opening theme of this game. I would play it a lot with my grandma at her house. She had an N64, and she was a gaming grandma. I played with her, and this game playing with her was always a blast. Sharing strategies and just exploring the game world together. It has so much charm. The visuals are fantastic. They're really, 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 really solid, and they don't quite cover up the jank of the N64, but they almost do. It's very, very solid. It's very, very fun. It's got very simplistic strategy elements, it's a turn-based RPG, but it's not that complicated of an RPG. It's very easy to pick up and play, and as somebody who doesn't like turn-based RPGs, I like Paper Mario, so if that goes to show anything about how good this fucking series is, there you go. It's great. I think it's a fucking fantastic game. And even outside of my nostalgia, I think it is very, very, very solid, and it gets overshadowed by its sequel, but I think it is on par with it, if not better. It's just more fun to me, in my opinion. It's a little easier, less funny than the sequel, but I think it's very tightly designed and it's just a good vibe. Some games I like just because they're good vibes. And we'll get to a very, very infamous game later on in this series. That's one that I love, not because it's the best game in the series. Like I love it more than any game in the series, not because it's the best, but because it just feels nice to play. And Paper Mario is one of those. Even outside of the nostalgia, it just feels nice to play. And the glitches are fun too. LCS, my beloved. You're getting a 9.5. And big yes, recommend. Master Quest Jr. is a ROM hack for Paper Mario. It is the easy mode to Master Quest, which is a very, very difficult hack meant for people who are fantastic at Paper Mario, and which is in and of itself a spiritual successor to Pro Mode, which is another one of those hacks. I only played Master Quest Jr. because it's easier than the other two, and it just adds in a ton of new content. It nerfs some things that are overpowered, just changes up the game in a lot of pretty interesting and crucial ways. Just adds a lot of new stuff, changes the way enemies work, changes the way your partners work, changes the way some badges and items work. It, as I said, it balances the game a lot, makes you, makes it a lot harder to get overpowered. It's good. I'd call it a 9. It's Paper Mario, but with more content, which honestly fits into the game world perfectly. I just giving it a lesser. I'll actually give it an identical score because it's just the same thing but with more to it. It's kind of like 64 DS. I'm gonna call it a no because I mean it really is just the same thing. But if you like 64 a lot, if you like Paper Mario 64 a lot, I would recommend giving Master Quest Jr. a try. And if you're really good, play Pro Mode or Master Quest. Senior. Thousand Year Door. Another easy 9.5. It's Paper Mario again. It's the same thing, but more polished. I mean, I think I said 64 is more polished, but I think I was wrong there. I'm just exaggerating for the sake of explaining my point, I suppose. Letting my brain get ahead of, or my mouth get ahead of my brain. Like there. Thousand Year Door is the same thing, but more polished. Cleaner looking. I don't like it visually as much, but it's cleaner looking. It branches out a lot more in terms of what it can do with the Mario universe. It has a lot more new and unique enemies and ideas to it in terms of how you get movement abilities, how the movement abilities work, how the story is told, how dark the story can get. It's not Dark Souls, it's not Undertale, but it's dark. Darker than you'd expect from Mario. It's really good. It's really, really good. And the remake came out a month ago as of recording this, so it's more in the public consciousness than it's ever been. And I think that's a great thing. I think it should be, I think everyone should give it a shot. If you like RPGs, if you like Mario, it's just great. Super Paper Mario is everything you like about Paper Mario is gone. But everything you like about regular Mario is there, but not actually everything. And a little of what you like about Paper Mario is in here. But truly, it's its own thing. It's a mishmash of two concepts that aren't really meant to go together, but they make it work anyway. And I think it's awesome. It's really, really, really witty and funny, which is not something you really come to Mario for, but the RPGs, both RPG series, really excel at that, in my opinion. They're just fucking actually funny. They know they're funny. And that's really cool. That's not something you would expect from a series like this, but you do get it in spades. It's really funny. It is by far the darkest Mario game ever made. You do go to hell in this game, which is funny. It's called the Underwear. But you do in fact go to hell in this game. This game actually doesn't pull its punches in terms of having scare factor. It gets genuinely unsettling at like 3 different occasions. And that is pretty based. You don't see that from Mario very often, aside of like really rare or obscure Easter eggs like in Land or Galaxy 2. This game is in your face, unsettling sometimes, and it can get dark, it can get uncomfortable, it's funny, it's just got a very fun gameplay loop. If I had to give this game a major critique, it's that it's way too easy. As a fucking, like, literal 10-year-old baby, I was able to beat this game no sweat. Like, barely ever fucking dying. It's just not hard. There's absolutely no challenge to it, to the point where you can just kind of breeze through the game not even thinking, which is, in my opinion, not great, because I prefer to be challenged at least a little bit. I'm not the kind of person to crave punishment, but I do enjoy being tested sometimes, and Super Paper Mario doesn't ever get to that point. And I think every game before this that I've listed has at least some point where you can say, yeah, I was challenged. Actually, Munchables doesn't, but that's beside the point. Super Paper Mario, the big downside is just the complete and utter lack of difficulty, in my opinion. It's fun, though. Very witty, very snappy, very creative with the puzzles, very creative with the general mechanics of the game. There are Easter eggs that require you to go into 3D that you would never know of before. There's even, like, tech with certain situations of the game where you can go into 3D when you're not really meant to, and it can help you get ahead in some very obscure ways. It's very creative and very interesting. I like the game a lot. I'm going to give it another 9, actually. And I'm going to give it another recommendation, I think. If you're seeing a lot of recommendations here, don't worry. We will get to not recommending games at a certain point. Bowser's Inside Story is another one of the first game, like my first games. It is the third entry in the Mario and Luigi series. I've never played the first two. And I don't have any complaints about this game. It's extremely fun. It's even funnier than Super Paper Mario. It's very clever, very silly, very absurd. I love absurdism, and this game has that in spades. The RPG mechanics are no more complicated than Paper Mario, but there's still, like, somehow more depth to them, if that makes sense. You don't need to have a PhD in order to get through the game, but there's more to do with the tools you're given. And I think that's pretty cool. I generally don't enjoy the combat as much as I do in Paper Mario, but I think it's better. It's one of those situations where it's not as... I don't favor as much, but it's better. Bowser's Inside Story is getting another 9.5. I think it's fucking fantastic. Music is once again top fucking notch. You have 100%, if you've been on the internet for any stretch of time, you have heard the finale theme from this game. You've fucking heard the Dark Bowser theme, almost certainly. You have almost certainly heard the Plaque Beach theme. This game's got fucking tunes. It's really, really good. I don't have any major complaints about it. It's just a fantastic RPG. If you like RPGs, you're going to enjoy it. If you don't like RPGs, you still might. Because, once again, raising my hand. Even though I've been giving glowing reviews to all these turn-based RPGs, I promise you I'm not a turn-based RPG guy. Dream Team. I don't like it as much as Bowser's Inside Story, but I think it's basically on par. They have actually shockingly similar premises, just with different characters, where you go inside of a character in some way, shape, or form, and then manipulate their body to your liking. Sometimes using the touch screen, sometimes just playing the video game. And I think it does a great. I think it does a great job. It's got. I don't like the graphics as much. Just I don't like the style as much as I like Bowser's Inside Story. But I think it's just as good. I don't have too much to say about it other than that. It's basically exactly on par with Inside Story in my opinion. And if it, I would probably favor Inside Story more, but it's not a big enough difference to knock this down to a 9 or Inside Story up to a 10. These games, I said that a 10 doesn't have any major flaws, and I haven't been pointing out any particularly major flaws in these games, but I think a 10 is a game that like really stands out as being fucking perfect, and these games don't quite do that. But we are seeing very consistent 9.5s across the fucking board here, so... Actually, I am going to knock this down to a 9 just because I'm going to be subjective about it, and I would not give these games 9.5s. I don't think about them and feel giddy inside like I do with these. Mario Kart Wii, it's the best Mario Kart game. It's just the best one. Some of the best music, some of the best stages. It's just the best Mario Kart game. I don't have anything more to say about it. It's got automatic mode, which is something that I don't think any other Mario Kart game has, so it's a lot more accessible to little baby kids who have no idea what they're doing, and they can still do well. Like, you can race against your fucking, like, 7-year-old kid as, like, a 50-year-old man, and your kid can, like, beat you. I think Wii is just a fantastic game. It's a great racing game. It's a great party game. I genuinely have no complaints with it. It's getting another 9.5. It's another one that I feel really happy about. Well, that's a 0.6. It's another game I just feel really happy about whenever I think of it. So it gets the solid. It's like it passes the vibe check to get to that 9.5. Mario Kart 8 is just like, it just doesn't feel as good. I'm giving it a no just because if you're going to play a Mario Kart game, I say play Wii. 8 has more to it. Even the Wii U version, because that's the one I'm ranking here. I've barely played the Switch version. It's really good, but it's not Wii. I will be the first to admit that my love for Wii is very influenced by nostalgia blindness, but I don't know. What can you do? It's my list. Super Sluggers, the final Mario game on the list. I didn't include Mario Maker. I'm an idiot. Did I really not include Mario Maker? I included Mega Maker, but not Mario Maker. That's interesting. I'll have to fix that. I guess we'll add Mario Maker to the very end of the list. I guess Wii U level editor, I guess. And then Mario Maker 2, Switch, level... I spelled it Edior. There we go. Alright. Super Sluggers. The third to last Mario game on the list now. It is a very simple sports game. It's just a baseball game. It's got some gimmicks to it that are Mario themed. It's just kind of there, in my opinion. I like it a lot, just from nostalgia, but it's just kind of a video game. You're not gonna... Your mind's not gonna be blown if you play Super Sluggers. You're just gonna be like, yep, that sure is a Mario-themed sports game. I've heard people love Strikers, so if you're gonna play a Mario-themed sports game, probably play that, but... whatever. Superstar Ultra, the first Kirby game on the list. And this is another one of the first games I ever played. What is there to even fucking say about Superstar Ultra? It's a huge collection of games. It's just like Superstar, but with more games to it. It's much tighter designed. It's in general just better. It's got some like fixes to things that people found annoying in Superstar. Just a great game. The music is fantastic. The bosses are really interesting. Every design you've got going on in this game is cool. The visuals are really unique and cool, in my opinion, with the like pre-baked backgrounds and things going on top of that, or just pre-baked like assets in general. It's really hard to describe unless you see it. It's like you're playing on a matte painting, with like level geometry, like invisible level geometry added to that. It's really hard to describe, but when you see it, it's pretty simple. But it's just a really nice vibe that I enjoy a lot. I'm giving it a 9. It does give me the warm feelings, but it's also it's kind of, I wouldn't call it missing something, but I just don't think it blows you out of the water or like blows your mind. It's not gonna knock your socks off. It's a really solid platformer. Um, got a lot of little Easter eggs in it. Got a lot of charm to it. It's the origin of Galactonite. That's cool if you care about Kirby lore. It's Galactonite's first game. It's Marx's second appearance, but Mark Soul's first game. So this game kicked off the trend of having soul bosses. This game kicked off the trend of having arenas. This game kicked off the trend of actually having some difficulty to it, because a lot of Kirby games are piss easy, but Superstar Ultra actually has some teeth sometimes. It's not going to be a fucking quarter muncher, but it's got teeth occasionally. 64 crystal shards. 8.5. No, 9. It's got a lot less to it than Superstar Ultra. It's like it follows the old design of Kirby games of being very being completely linear. Abilities only have one use, one attack to them, so the abilities have no depth to them whatsoever. Except in this game you can merge abilities and make them into entirely unique abilities like lightsaber or fridge or dynamite or explosive snowman. Or exploding light bulb, or melting ice cube. This game is very silly. It's kind of annoying to 100%, and it's annoying that it locks off the best boss fight in the game behind 100%ing the game. But even the regular final boss is really creative. Miracle Matter. It's very interesting to fight because it requires you to constantly swap out your abilities. I think it's just a very fun game. It's really fun to try out all the different abilities, just like every other Kirby game, really. But this game takes it up a notch with the merging. Just a really solid 2D platformer. I'm gonna give it a yes, actually. Return to Dreamland. Wow, this is Kirby. It takes Superstar Ultra's or Superstar plus Superstar Ultra's design philosophy with the abilities of having tons and tons of different moves, of controlling like Smash Bros with like direction inputs and combo inputs, which makes sense because they're developed by the same studio, HAL Labs. Return to Dreamland is very solid. It's got multiple campaigns, which is cool. It's got a lot of unique fights to it. It's got a lot of fucking phenomenal music, which that's something I should mention. Every Kirby game has god tier music. That is a standard with Kirby, believe it or not. Return to Dreamland is just, it's really solid. I have a lot of nostalgia for it, just like Superstar Ultra. And while I think I like Superstar Ultra more, Return to Dreamland is just better. And there's a remake of it too, also on Switch, so it's really accessible. It's just really fun. The vibes are immaculate in this game, which is a big part of my scoring. It's just, does this game feel fun? Does it feel pleasant? And Return to Dreamland, absolutely. Planet Robobot. maybe the best Kirby game. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. It's the same formula as Superstar Ultra and Robobot. So that same thing that we've had from Superstar until Superstar, then Superstar Ultra until Star Allies kind of followed the same format. And I think Robobot does it the best. Every Kirby game has like its kind of gimmick to it. Superstar had partners. So did Superstar Ultra. Return to Dreamland had mega abilities. Triple Deluxe had the Supernova Fruit. Star Allies had friendship in general. And Planet Robobot has a Mobile Suit Gundam. It's a mech suit that can copy abilities just like Kirby does. It doesn't have every ability in the game, but it has quite a few, and they all function completely differently from both the base robot and Kirby generally. There's a lot of puzzles that revolve around that. There are puzzles that revolve going back and forth between the background and the foreground. It's a really, really clever and fun platformer, and I think it's probably just the best Kirby platformer to date. I haven't played much of Triple Deluxe, and I haven't played any of what's the name? Forgotten Worlds? Is that the name of the newer one? The 3D one. I've heard that one's really good, but of the ones that I've played, I think Planet Robot is just the best. It's got a shitload of fan service, which is nice. It really felt like a finale to this sort of era of the Kirby series until Star Allies came out and kind of sucked and then took over that sort of role. I'm actually going to outright add a new row below. I could have done that for Mario Maker, but I'm not going to. I'm going to add in Star Allies right the fuck now, because I don't have a lot to say about it, but I think I should at least mention it. I'm actually not going to recommend Robobot. I know that sounds kind of silly, but I feel like if you're going to play Kirby games, I think Return to Dreamland is the most accessible and layman-friendly of these games, because it doesn't have as much that's like, yo, I know that's from the other Kirby game. It's kind of... It was like the start of this sort of style of game that ended with Star Allies. And as such, it just doesn't have nearly as much that you need to have prior context to either fully enjoy or just understand to begin with. So I would call Dreamland probably the best. Just to, like, as a regular person, play a fucking Kirby game. And including Superstar Ultra, just because it's fucking really, really, really solid and has a lot of unique content to it that I just don't think it's worth writing off. Even though, don't take any of the fucking recommendations to don't take them seriously. Don't take any of this seriously. It's just for fun. It's just me ranting. Kirby Star Allies is... God. So, I said that some Kirby games have teeth in terms of their difficulty. They have some form of challenge, something interesting going on. Just, they actually require you to pay attention to the video game. On the contrary, Star Allies may be the most mind-numbing game I've ever played. If you look at the two of them side by side, you'll be like, what the fuck are you talking about? They look basically the same. Like, look at Return to Dreamland and Star Allies. It's like, they're basically the same thing. But when you play it, you understand. This game has so much fan service, and it's got a lot of fun campaigns to it, or like unique campaigns and interesting campaigns. You can play the game as like 50 different characters. It's really impressive, and the game has a lot of work put into it. It does a lot for the Kirby lore. It's got great music, as always. But I beat the game, I think, 3 times. With, like, I beat the main campaign, and then I beat, like, the alternate campaign in, like, 2 or 3 times. And I remember almost nothing from my time, which is literally why it wasn't on the list, because I just forgot the fucking game existed. It's not a bad game. but it is so fucking nothing. And I don't know if this is a fucking crazy take or whatever, but I think it gets a 6.5 because the game is just so bland because of how easy it is. Kirby games are like walking a very thin line between being too easy and just easy. And this game falls way over the line into too easy, and it drops hard from just how boring it is. You walk forward, your partners, which you are required to have to do most things in the game, your partners kill everything for you. You don't need to press the attack button like once in this game after you have a partner. There's just no challenge. It's just not interesting. It's just not a fun game, which is really sad. Mass Attack. Mass Attack is another fan servicey one in terms of like the side modes and shit and the lore that's in it. It's another fan servicey one. It's very different in terms of how it controls. It's got a great OST to it. The worlds are very unique. The gameplay is extremely weird with how you do it. You tap the screen and drag around on the screen to conduct a swarm of Kirbys. It's very fun, though. It's a very solid experience. It's not mind-blowing. It's not God tier, but it's pretty good. It does the Kirby 64 thing of requiring you to 100% the game to see a final boss, which is not cool. So if you want to fight Necrodius, yep, you have to fucking 100% the game, which I think is really shit. Otherwise, you just end up like this pig guy. I don't remember his name. It's just like called Pig King or Skull King or something like that. Really bland final boss. It's not that hard, not that interesting. I don't know. It's got a lot wrong with it in terms of like major design decisions, and it's very different from any Kirby game. But it's cool. It's fine enough. I like it a lot, but it's not a 9. In fact, I'm just gonna call it a flat 8. I think 8.5 is a little generous. Battle Royale. It's Kirby Smash Bros, but not that interesting. It's a party game plus Smash Bros plus Kirby game. I don't even know how to fully articulate what this game is or what it's like to play it. But it's not fantastic. It's playable. It's fun for a while. I played it for like a good 8 hours maybe. I got my fill. I don't know if I'm ever going to play it again, but it sure is a video game. It's playable. It's getting a real solid no from me there, though. Now, Rhythm Heaven. Rhythm Heaven Fever is top fucking notch, man. It has incredible music. Like, absolutely mind-blowing music. Not every minigame, but almost every minigame is really unique and charismatic and charming and fun. It's got a lot of challenge to it. Getting perfects is difficult, but rewarding. It is a wonderful game with wonderful visuals and wonderful audio. It is so charming, it is so silly and absurd, and just... it is immaculate. If you've never played Rhythm Heaven, go fucking play Rhythm Heaven. You will not regret it. And if you're going to play it, play this game, frankly. Because the next game that we're going to talk about kind of holds your hand, and Fever does not do that. Fever, you get right into the action, and it is a blast from cover to cover. You will love it. if you like any form of rhythm game. Megamix is a mix of the previous 3 Rhythm Heaven games, one of which I've played extensively to the degree that I can comfortably put it on here. It's just a mix of the other 3 with a bunch of minigames left out, and some new minigames thrown in at the beginning that are just like easier and much, much less interesting versions of other minigames throughout the series. Like, I think the first one you do is Karate Man, but it's like a really weird, slow, short version of Karate Man with the most boring fucking music on the planet in the background. And that's just how the game is for the first, like, world. Like, the first half of the fucking game is like that. And it's insane. It's got new additions to it. New minigames that are great. And the perfect attempt system is, I think, just better in this. I think it's the going for a perfect is way, way, way better in Fever or in Megamix. There's also collectibles, which to me adds something, but I understand that it wouldn't for everyone. I enjoy it though. I give it an 8.5. It's Rhythm Heaven. It's got almost if not literally every minigame from Fever. So, if you enjoyed Fever, you can just play most of Fever on the 3DS, plus a bunch of other bonus minigames. Just that a good chunk of those bonus minigames suck, because they are just worse versions of minigames from the rest of the series. I'm going to call it a no, but that doesn't mean it's a bad game. I have had a lot of fun with Megamix. Okay, my throat is starting to hurt, so I think I'm going to stop right before Dark Souls. Because Dark Souls is a lot to say about Dark Souls. Mega Man 1 is so janky, the controls suck, the bosses are pretty terribly designed. Yellow Devil, Electman, well actually Electman's kind of fine. Fireman, very unintuitive. Mega Man 1 is not great. I will be the first to fucking say that here. It's literally a 5.5 out of 10, and the fact that the games continued after this is a miracle. And I'm so glad they did, because it's an immediate step up. Mega Man 1 is just not that fun. It's got a great soundtrack. It's got one of the best soundtracks in the series, but that's all it's really got going for it. It's just not a very fun video game. It's balls to the wall hard, and for no good reason. It's got less content to it than any other game in the series. It is by far the shortest. It's by far the most broken. It's just not that good. Mega Man 2, on the other hand, is beloved, and for a good reason. I would say it's pretty damn good. Its balance is terrible. Terrible, terrible, terrible. Some stages are piss easy. Some of them are nightmarishly difficult, like fucking, I would say Wily 3 and Quickman stage are Wily 3 less so, but Quickman is infamous, and for a good fucking reason. His stage is terrible, and his fight is one of the worst in the series. The game's not that amazing, but it's really good. I don't understand why it's the Mega Man, this is the Mega Man game, because they just, in my opinion, they just keep getting better, except for a couple missteps. I don't know why people love this one so much. I'm going to give it a no, just because there are other Mega Man games I would recommend over it. But I mean, it's good. It's a really good game. It just has a lot wrong with it. Mega Man 4, on the other hand, is a solid 9, and I would recommend it. For one, you have your full moveset now. You got charge shots and slides, which neither of which existed in Mega Man 1 or 2. The slide was introduced in 3, which I don't have on here because I haven't played it extensively enough to really have an opinion on it. Well, I've beaten 2, 5, 2, 5, 9, 10, and I've almost beaten every other game. 4 is great. 4 is just all the weapons are way more interesting than 2. The level design is infinitely more solid. The boss design is infinitely more solid. It's I think a little longer than 2, because it has both the Cossack and Wily stages. I don't know. It's a great game. It's more forgiving without being piss easy. It's still really challenging, but it's fantastic. It's just a better Mega Man game. 5 is back down to an 8, I think. Man, my throat hurts. Five is... I don't even know how to describe my opinion on Mega Man 5. Everything feels off in this game. Dealing damage feels terrible because enemies have iframes, which is a really weird choice for a game like this. The weapons largely suck. The boss design is okay, but not great, not terrible. It's just kind of there. Mega Man 5 is the epitome of just kind of being there, but by no means is it actually all that interesting. It's just another Mega Man game, and it just doesn't really do anything that well. It's just kind of a step down from 4. And 6, in my opinion, is the best. I like it more than any other Mega Man game. I love the music. I love the boss design. I love the gimmick of it being robot masters from a bunch of different nations around the world. There's an American one, Japanese one, a Chinese one, one from somewhere in the Middle East, one from Brazil. What else? There's more. There are more of them, but I don't remember all of them. One from Greece, one from the UK. There we go. Yeah, it's a very, very, very cool game. I love... I'm not huge on the Wily stages, because I don't like the Wily stages in fucking any Mega Man game, really. But, 6 is very, very strong. I think it does a lot right. It's if 5 did everything right. And considering it's one of the last games ever released for the NES, it really goes to show they just kind of figured out what the fuck they were doing by this point. And I think it's just really solid. I love 6. I think it's a great game. It came out after Mega Man X, I think, which is kind of funny to picture. But, yeah. Okay. Mega Man and Bass. It might be shocking to hear this, because I just got finished saying that by Mega Man 6 they kind of figured out what they were doing. But Mega Man and Bass is going to be the lowest rated game yet. At a solid 3.5. It is, once again, balls to the wall difficult, but for all the wrong reasons. Even if you play as Bass, because you have two different player characters, Bass and Mega Man. And Bass makes the game way easier, but it's still not easy. The game is built for him because he has a double jump, I think, which allows him to do a lot of things that Mega Man just can't. You can also shoot through walls. You can shoot in either 8 directions or 6 directions, something like that. He shoots really fast. He doesn't have the charge shot, but he shoots extremely fast. Bass is just really, really good compared to Mega Man. It makes the game very, it makes the game a little more bearable. But, the game pulls a lot of cheap shots. There's a lot of, invisible, like, spike pits. There are tons of insta-kill or nearly insta-kill hazards. There are enemies that are just way too fucking fast and way too aggressive. There are enemies that are ported over from Mega Man 8, but function entirely differently from Mega Man 8. I played the GBA version, which is even worse, because it has screen crunch, which is fantastic. And if you play as Mega Man, the game is nigh on impossible to beat without, like, literally 20 fucking hours of practice. And on top of everything, the final fucking boss is a gauntlet of, I think, you go through 3 stages, and you get to the final boss, and he has 4 or 5, like, somewhere from 3 to 5 phases, all of which are bullshit. They're all ludicrously difficult, have tons of attacks that you need to just know how they work beforehand in order to dodge. You get no health refills throughout it, so you better have fucking E-tanks ready. His weaknesses change per phase, and are completely arbitrary, which is something that Mega Man games kind of suffer from in general, but it really adds on to it in this game, considering it's unreasonably hard. This game just doesn't do almost anything right. The only good thing I can say about Mega Man in Base for GBA is that the boss theme, the regular stage boss theme, is actually, like, fucking cracked out of its mind good. That's it. That's the only thing it does right. This game blows so much ass. It's genuinely fucking fascinating. It's unbelievable that they managed to somehow make Mega Man, after making 8 games in the series before this, plus at least 1 or 2 games in the X series, and then they pump out this garbage. It's hilarious. It's actually baffling and hilarious that they managed to make a game this shit in this franchise. I'm knocking it down to a flat 3, actually. It's so fucking bad. If you think I'm exaggerating, go play it yourself. It is unbelievable how much worse this game is from anything else in the series, to a ludicrous degree. Mega Man 9, on the other hand, that is a solid 9.5. That's a 9.6. It's a solid 9... Okay, that's a 6 again. It's a solid 9.5. I like 6 the best. I like Mega Man 6 the best. 9 I've beaten all the way through, and it's very, very challenging. It's very hard. But, God, it is awesome! The weapons are relatively balanced. The stages are all really interesting, unique, and fun. All the bosses have weaknesses that actually kind of work if you think about them. They're very bizarre, but they kind of work. It's just a really fucking fun game. It's one of the hardest Mega Man games outside of Base and arguably 1. It does not pull any fucking punches. It has a huge amount of content to it. Very, very difficult, but, like, approachably difficult. I think it's fantastic. It is a fantastic fucking game and a shining example of what this series is. It's great. It's just great. And once again, this is a through line through most Mega Man games. The OST is fucking god tier. Mega Man 1, 2, 3, 6, 9, and 10. And Unlimited. And Unlimited's fan-made, so take that with a grain of salt. All have truly legendary soundtracks. It's insane. Mega Man 10, I'm giving another 9.5. It's basically on par with 9. It's easier. It's a lot more forgiving, but still not piss easy. It's basically the fucking same, but just, like, slightly different. I prefer it more. It's tied with 6 for being my favorite, I think. Of the official ones. It's just a really, really, really solid game. There's not much to say about it. Which sounds like a bad thing, but I promise you it's not. And Unlimited. Good God. Mega Man fucking Unlimited. It's a fan-made game. It was good enough that Capcom fucked up and used art from it for their official Mega Man 10 website. Because this game was called Mega Man 10 when it was first being created, and then when Mega Man 10 actually started becoming a thing, they renamed it to Unlimited. So Capcom used assets from a fan game, because the fan game is so solid that not only is it similar in quality to the other Mega Man games, it surpasses almost all of them. The music is fantastic, the art is fantastic, the balancing is fantastic, the difficulty is just right, there are tons of secrets, tons of interesting just design quirks in general, the weapons are fascinating, and just really fun to use. The final boss is really weird, but also cool, in my opinion. It's got an entire second campaign, it's got multiple difficulties that are very distinct. It is a nearly perfect fucking game. My only problem with it is that I just, like, kind of lose steam around the Wily stages. It's kind of a fault in every Mega Man game for me, is that I just don't like the Wily stages that much, and Mega Man Unlimited is no different. But I don't really, I don't know. I just don't think there exists a 10 out of 10 Mega Man game for me. So, that sucks. Now, huge tone shift. Resi 2 Remake. I played through the entirety of this game a little while ago. I was doing, I did the Claire A scenario, and went through the entire game, start to finish, in one day, on, I think, standard difficulty. And I think it was great. It was a blast, honestly. I had a lot of fun, just getting used to the ammo management, and the general combat, and knowing when to kill zombies, when to injure zombies, when to ignore zombies. And that has gotta be my favorite thing about survival horror in general, is the resource management, and knowing when to let things stay difficult for you, and when to actually waste resources for convenience sake, or safety's sake. It's a really, really cool balance that you have to keep in your mind. And Resi 2 Remake is just a really, really, really tightly designed, solid example of that. Where it just takes Resi 2, and just like the early Resi games in general that are all like that, and just makes it really accessible. You don't have to deal with the off-putting camera, which some people really enjoy from the original Resi 2. The fixed camera, a lot of people enjoy that. I don't particularly. I prefer the precise over the shoulder, so it's third person, but it's basically a first person shooter in terms of how it controls with Resi 2 Remake. I love it. Love that game. I had a fucking blast with it. That same day, I started Leon B and got like halfway through Leon B. So I beat the game 1.5 times in one day, and I do intend on going back and finishing Leon B at some point. And then probably doing Leon A and Claire B. Just so I can say I've like fully done, I almost said Mega Man. Stuck on Capcom. Just so I can say I've fully done Resi 2. But Resi 2, genuinely an amazing fucking game. And there's a reason the Resident Evil franchise is as famous as it is. It's not just, oh yeah, it's the horror game. It's the horror game for a reason. It is good. It is a good fucking game. I'm giving it a 9.5. There's so many games here that I like. Some of the first games I thought of, or the game series I thought of, were ones that I love. So there's a lot of good games here. And I also just don't tend to play games that I don't like. So there's not going to be a lot of games here that are like at least like a 7. This is going to be a lot of positivity on this. Smash Wii U. It's pretty good. Like 8.5. It's a Smash Brothers game. It's got infamously horrible balance. The online netcode, or just the matchmaking netcode, was abysmal. So basically, playing the game at all was a horrible experience. But playing it specifically casually with friends is just fine. Very fun. The stage builder was cool, but it only got better with Ultimate. Everything this game did, Ultimate did better. I don't think Wii U did literally anything better than Ultimate, outside of maybe the art style. And even then, the art style is so unnoticeably different for most people that it really doesn't matter. I'm going to call it a no. I'm going to call it a no, just because Ultimate is just the same thing, but better. Smash Ultimate is just so much fucking content that you will never see it all. It has a fantastic campaign. It has an arcade mode, which is great. It has tons and tons and tons and tons and tons of really shitty collectibles, but they are there. It has some really unique third-party content. It's got Sans Undertale, it's got Steve Minecraft, it's got Cuphead, Doom Guy, Vault Boy. There's some very, very silly third-party shit in this game. And, I mean, kind of infamously, Steve Minecraft is by far the strongest character in the game, which is hilarious to me. Because he went from a lot of people at least in my circles, I know a couple people who are kind of in the competitive scene. It started out with Steve being like, oh, he's the worst, and then suddenly it's like, he's literally top of fucking SS plus tier, and he should be banned. I love how unbelievably good Steve is. But, in general, outside of Steve, I think this game is one of the best balanced Smash games. It's probably the best balanced Smash game, just outright, which is unbelievable considering the size of its roster. You would expect that the game would be all over the place with balance, and it kind of is. If you're on a competitive level, then a D tier is going to be like abysmal. But for casual players and for mid-level competitive, the game is really balanced, and you can do well with even like the worst characters. My main is Bowser. I'm not good at the game, but I can still get good mileage out of him just because the game is just not that unbalanced. It's good. It's a great fighting game with tons and tons and tons and tons of just fucking leagues of fan service. It's great. The Smash games fucking made the platform fighter genre, and they run with it. They started an entire genre because they're good fucking games. And Smash Ultimate is the best in a line of great games. Simple as. Elder Scrolls V Skyrim. So, when I started the idea for this list, when I started writing it down and coming up with just the idea of reviewing every game that I played, just, once again, like Grapefruit, I knew there would be a point where I had to talk about my opinion on the Elder Scrolls V Skyrim, and anybody who watched this far, or watched this video to begin with, most people will hate this, but I do not like Skyrim. The game has a decent amount of polish. the world is about as interesting as high fantasy can get, which is not. It's I don't like fantasy just in general. It takes a lot for fantasy to be interesting to me. Elder Scrolls does not do that. The fact that it's Nordic is cool, but it's not that cool. You can't put enough fucking pizzazz on a game to make me give a shit about elves. I hear the word elf and my brain turns off, frankly. And Elder Scrolls does not do anything to combat that. The combat is miserable. It's just point at the enemy, hit them, walk backwards so they don't hit you. Or, even better, you get swarmed by enemies and it's just hold block and occasionally cast spell or hit them and hope you win. Or in most scenarios, it's win the stat contest. Because it is an RPG. It's an action RPG. It's not just about skills, it's about having good equipment and leveling up. And it just is not fucking fun. It's just outright not fun after, like, I played the game for... Let me look at Steam, actually, to see how many hours I've played of Skyrim. Okay. I have Skyrim Special Edition specifically. I have played less than 5 hours of it. I know that makes me sound... I mean, objectively, I probably don't have much of a place to actually comment on the game because of that. But I believe the fact that I couldn't get any fucking further than that should be enough to indicate that maybe I just don't like the fucking game. And that I think not liking the game is a valid enough opinion that I should be able to comment on it. And I just can't get into Skyrim. The most fun I have in this game is being a loot goblin, collecting everything I can find, mostly plants, because I want to mix them together and see what I make. And, that's really it. That's all I fucking do in that game. I try and do some of the main quests, and they bore the shit out of me. I try and do some of the side quests, and they bore the shit out of me. So I just collect plants for like an hour, and then I'm like, yep, that's my session of the Elder Scrolls V Skyrim, and I stop playing it, and I don't play it for years at a time. And is it really a fucking wonder why? 3.5? No, it's not a 3.5, it's a 4. Calling it on tier with fucking Mega Man and Bass is way overboard. It's... you know what, it even gets a 4.5. It's just that I don't like the game. It's beloved. I will recommend it. But I don't like it. It's just not for me. It is the epitome of just not for me. It's like, you can look at a fucking Wagyu steak and say, yes, this is objectively high quality. But also it's gross. And that's how I feel about Skyrim. Skyrim's a fucking Wagyu. It's objectively well-loved. People enjoy it. It's a broken fucking mess, just like every fucking Bethesda game. But it's loved. For some reason, I just don't get it. And speaking of not getting it, Fallout New Vegas. My friend Nerb's favorite game, I think. Just outright. Number one favorite. I played it for about an hour, I think. Got soft-locked. And I stopped playing it. Once again, I think that might disqualify me from being allowed to have an opinion on this, let alone give it a review. However, I've seen enough content on the game of people playing the unmodded version and crashing if you look at somebody the wrong way. Or characters breaking quest lines just because you looked at them the wrong way, or a breeze went in an unexpected direction 5 miles away, and suddenly Deputy Beagle is shooting you in the face upon first sight. It's like, I don't know, I can see the appeal. I like the aesthetic. It's cool. The Wasteland aesthetic is fun. The combat is uncomparably better than Skyrim. VATS, just in general, does so much to make Fallout way, way, way more interesting. And gunplay in general is just more interesting than hack and slash, stand in front of your enemy and hope you win the numbers race. Fallout New Vegas is just infinitely better than Skyrim, in my opinion, but I still don't like it. It's still one of those just not for me kind of games. It's getting a 6. Just a flat 6. I will recommend it, because once again, it is well loved, and it's well loved for a reason. It's got a lot to it. The story is apparently interesting. I wouldn't know. It's apparently interesting. Apparently the companions are very in-depth and well regarded. Some of the bugs are funny. Some of the bugs are game-breaking. For every reload dash or cock, there's 5 instances where you just crash upon stepping on the wrong pebble. So it's fine enough, but it's not a game that I actually ever see myself coming back to for a second try. I know enough about it that I feel confident in saying that I don't see much of an appeal for me. But, yeah. 1 second. And so, that's everything that I think I'm going to do for now, because my throat hurts. And if you get me going about Dark Souls, or Hollow Knight, or Terraria, or... yeah. This stretch right here is like half of my top 10 games list, like back to back. So this is gonna be a while, more than likely. The entire stretch of Five Nights at Freddy's games, which goes all the way down to here, is gonna be a long while. This fucking game is gonna be a while. These games are gonna be a while. Every game from, like, this entire stretch of, like, indie games is gonna be a lot. There's gonna be a lot about the, DreadX Collection games. There's Subnautica over here. I'm gonna have a lot to say about that. Funny. Yeah, there's gonna be a lot to say about a lot of these games, so I want to be able to give them the respect they deserve and only do a couple games of video. I did 50 games. That's about like a 7th of the list. It's about a 7th. So that's pretty good. That's pretty good. I'm proud of this. This was good fun, in my opinion. I hope at least someone out there watched this video to completion. I guarantee you Nerb will. So if you got this far, hi Nerb. I know you already know my opinion on Fallout, so you're not shocked. But also sorry that I rated your favorite game a 6 out of 10. But I'm glad you can agree with me that Elder Scrolls is not that poggers. Anyway, thank you, anyone who stuck through this. I'm sorry that it was long-winded and probably kind of boring, but it's just good for me to be able to get my opinions out there. I know basically no one on Earth is going to care. However, I like talking, and I thought this would be a fun way for me to concretely understand my own opinions and have an excuse to talk about some of my favorite games. So, we got through the huge Mario block. We got through the entirety of Mega Man and Kirby. Like, we got through a huge block of, like, samey games. And soon we're going to be on to more unique series until we hit the Five Nights at Freddy's block, which in and of itself that's 30-something games right there. Good lord. And then the DreadX games go from, what, 146 until 190. So that's another 35 games, I think. So, yeah. I look forward to making more of these, and I sincerely hope that other people can find and enjoy this this video as much as I did. I will hopefully be able to handle speaking for longer stretches of time. Drinking water has very much helped. My throat doesn't hurt nearly as much as it did earlier. However, I don't want to push it too much, and we're already nearing the 2-hour mark, so I'm going to call it here. Thank you, everyone. And I have nothing to plug. I don't have a Patreon or anything. But if you enjoy the video, subscribe, all that shit. So I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day, and goodbye.